Hey, everybody. Welcome to the fifth edition episode of Comic Book Curation Live. I'm Polydub, and I have with me, as always, Inquisitor. Say hi, Inquisitor.
Hi, Inquisitor.
And Bad Comic Reviews.
Hello.
So, as always, here we are in, what is this, the 10th or 11th day of comicsgate fuckery gone mad? What, has it been 2 weeks yet? No, not even close.
Pretty sure it's been a year.
Yeah.
It's been happening for a while, but, you know, at least in terms of the local stuff.
Since the last explosion of insanity to pop off over last weekend, I want to say, not this one, but the last one. I mean, things are still going crazy. And now, oh God, Vox Day got involved, which, you know, nobody liked. Jesus,
I've seen Vox Day come up a lot on things like my Audible mentions, mainly because or Audible recommendations, mainly because I bought Milo Yiannopoulos' book through Audible. But the more I find out about Vox Day, the less and less I want to read his books.
I can understand that. I mean, his reputation out there is what it is. It's like, oh, he's a racist and he does that. All I know is it looks like a pretty blatant attempt to ride the name of comicsgate as best he can. Like we were talking about. Yeah, and like we were talking about before the video went live, it just reminds me of Richard Spencer with the Pepe memes and wearing his little Pepe frog pin. And it's, you know, dude, you're a hardcore white nationalist alt-writer and you're, you know, trying to attach yourself to this sort of less than normie thing going on with memes. And that's what, like, have you seen the logo that Vox Day put out?
Yeah.
No SJWs. Yeah, SJW free.
Well,
and it's like,
it's good to see somebody is still using Windows 95 desktop publishing.
Yeah. I was laughing at how amateur it looked. So
I don't blame everybody talking about it. I'm glad that the reaction has been pretty resounding across the board. Like, you know, Ethan Van Sciver doing a couple streams where they're definitely talking about it, where it's like, you're attempting to nab this thing. Umbrella Guy's video on it was excellent. His little 15-minute take on it, where, yeah, he sums it up pretty well. Everything that was going on that was weird about that. I am surprised, honestly, that CBR and Bleeding Cool, I mean, I actually haven't been over to Bleeding Cool yet. Are they like, they are who we always knew them to be. They're like, this white nationalist is backing them up and, you know, wanting to publish comics in this way.
Yeah, well, that's how you know that Vox doesn't care about the comic industry, because he knows he's controversial. He's just doing this for a cash grab, and it's obvious, because if he cared, he won't be trying to take over the movement, because he knows that he's an extremist. He knows that his views are incredibly controversial and that people already are being associated with him. If he cared about the comics gate movement at all, he won't be doing this.
No, and okay, it's a cash grab, but it's also like an avenue to notoriety, if you know what I mean, where it's like, everyone's talking about this comicsgate thing. What the fuck is this? Oh, it's something to do with comic books. Okay, well, I'll just copyright that name now, you know.
Yeah, it's a branding move on his part, which I get why he's doing it. I just think it's incredibly stupid.
Well, is it stupid or is it smart on his part? Just stupid because we don't like what he's doing?
No, it's stupid because he's pissing off all the people that he wants to sell stuff to.
Yeah.
All the so-called comic skaters. The way he was talking to them, he had 800 people in his live stream, and he was berating them, calling them gammas and all this, saying, you know, calling Ethan Van Sciver a soy boy. Ethan Van Sciver is the biggest selling member of Comicsgate. Even if the book hasn't come out yet, he's still made $500,000 off of Cyberfrog, a 20-some-year-old property, and he's 25 years, whatever, and he's able to pull $500,000, and you're alienating those people? That's dumb.
That's a bad decision.
Do you see that clip from that? That's for that stream that's just like gone crazy with gone viral. You made a mistake by messing with the Dark Lord. Like, are you?
Yeah. Well, the best part about that is that did you guys see Ethan's live stream after that?
Where
Because-
he's trademarking the Dark Lord comics.
Well, no, it was in response to Vox Day, because essentially Ethan was streaming when Vox announced that, so a lot of Ethan's audience went over to fuck with Vox Day during that stream, and so Vox Day sends him like an email talking about the Dark Lord and all that other kind of stuff, and then during Ethan's stream the following day, all of these toadies from Vox Day come over and start trying to fuck with the chat. So Ethan just gives moderating to like one random person. They all get banned.
That's what I would have done.
It was so funny. It's like, Vox, you're just completely ineffectual here, dude. You just...
Well, first of all, never give yourself a nickname. It never ends well.
Oh, dude, well said. Like the Dark Lord sitting in your little velvet chair. Like, are you fucking serious?
It looks kind of homoerotic. Like,
I'm the Dark Lord.
I'm the Dark Lord. If he had like a velvet smoking jacket and some purple curtains, it would have been the gayest thing I've ever seen.
Hey. Smoking jackets are cool. What are you talking about?
They may be cool, but it still looked pretty gay. Especially like this.
Trying to bring it back. Probably trying to bring it back.
He looked like an out of shape meth version of Anton LaVey. I know people are comparing him to Moby, but he looks a lot more like puffy drug rehab Anton LaVey.
Like the Satanist guy, Anton LaVey?
Yep.
Okay, all right. I was like, hold on, I know that name from somewhere. I had to think about it.
Sorry, it might have been an obscure reference.
No, I actually knew who it was. So it's yeah.
You guys make me feel old.
No, somebody. Well, I mean, that's before your time, isn't it? Wasn't that guy like live and a big deal in the fucking 70s in San Francisco?
Yeah. It went through the 80s. It bled into the heavy metal scene in the 80s, which is where I learned about him, and the whole Satanic Panic thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have heard enough about the misunderstanding of paganism, Satanism, and endless railings against the Satanic Panic from Sticks, Hex, and Hammer 666. You can't listen to that guy's channel without him carrying. Like, he compares everything to the Satanic Panic, every moral panic that exists, every outrage. Is like, this is just like the Satanic Panic. It's like, not really, but okay.
Yeah, people went to jail during that. That's much different than most hysterical panics. Most panics are more like the D&D scare, which only peripherally tied into the.
I was gonna say,
you mean like bad rumors and stuff?
The D&D scare was part of the Satanic Panic.
Yeah, but it was more of its own. The Satanic Panic was more about like secret cults and things like that. It was an aspect of it, but it was really its standalone panic, if you really look at it.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. We're making fun of Vox Day.
Yeah.
Yes,
we'll have this discussion some other time.
By the way, I just looked up on I looked for Bleeding Cool and Vox Day. The only thing that came up was one article from Bleeding Fool, not Bleeding Cool, talking about alt hero. But for the most part, Bleeding Cool only brings up the Hugo controversy.
Oh yeah, he had a bunch of his people flooding the Hugo Awards.
Yeah.
Oh, I did come across an article on what's her name? The body positive super Faith? Is that her name?
Yeah,
oh
Faith.
yeah.
There's exclusive variants at the Baltimore Comic-Con for Faith, and it's like, oh shit, let me get a plane ticket. Like,
are they foil embossed?
I see what
lenticular cover. It looks like she's jiggling. That was mean out loud.
See, I've been thinking about something. We should really restructure the show a little bit, like not heavily, but just a little bit. Like before we start referencing something, like this show is so inside baseball that if you don't know the stuff we're talking about beforehand, you could be very easily lost, because anybody could easily say, who the fuck is Vox Day? We haven't even said who this guy is yet.
No, we're facilitating people to do more research on their own.
Yeah, well, I mean, for the most part, anyone involved in the comics, because Vox Day, at least anyone involved in knowing what comicsgate is or anything like that might know who Voxday is simply because he was part of Alt Hero.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was peripherally involved in Gamergate somehow.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we should probably, I mean, how hard would it be? Vox Day is a longtime science fiction writer who has been serially accused of being a misogynist and alt-writer and white nationalist, and hasn't really done much to shy away from that. As a matter of fact, has, confirmed it himself, gravitated towards it, if you know what I mean. He'll say there's no such thing as white nationalism, and then go on to say a bunch of things that fall within the description of white nationalism. He came along and decided to start a comic book imprint label, not an imprint, but a comic book publishing service by the name of comicsgate, thus trying to graft, I think graft is the right word, off of the name, be a grifter. You know what I mean? And it's the response from everybody out there who's been in comicsgate has been like a rejection of like, fuck off, Spencer wannabe, go to hell. Like it.
I think the reaction really caught him off guard. I don't think he was expecting people to have that kind of negative reaction. He expected some blowback, but not what he got.
And a wonderful thing happened during when he's like streaming and talking about this. Is a whole bunch of comicsgaters or supportive people of Comicsgate bombed in on his chat and were fucking with him, and he responded in the stupid. This is not a man who knows how to handle the bants. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
Ignore it or try and play into it by like saying something like, "You guys will see that this is going to be in the best interests of you. It may not seem like that right now, but moving on," and then just ignore it from that point. But he actually starts threatening people in his chat and calling them out and calling them names and shit. And it's like, you called comicsgaters names. That's what started Comicsgate. You fool. Like,
it was his deplorables moment. He's basically called them all deplorables by calling them gammas. And that's not going to help you sell anything. He didn't pitch the books to us, so we really don't know anything about what he's selling us. We just know that he's trying to take over the brand.
Yeah.
And it's a bad move on his part because, first of all, if you wanted to say, if he wasn't trying to claim that it was his now and he could take it away, is what the threat seemed to be implied there. Mm-hmm. If he hadn't done that, I think he could have got away with saying that it's comic book or Comicsgate adjacent, and give it a shot. We're not going to have any SJW pussiness here, blah blah blah. And he probably could have won people over to at least try it. But now he's trying to seize it and make it a brand, and I think it's a mistake because it's effectively like trying to co-opt a meme.
Well, it's all I gotta say is him trying to make fun of people and denigrating them if they didn't like it. That's exactly what the social justice warriors do to comicsgaters to begin with. So you're doing exactly what, quote, your enemies are doing, Vox. You've made the biggest mistake.
Exactly. And I think it's gonna flop. I mean, I don't really care about the name Comicsgate because you could call a movement anything, and lots of movements splinter. But him trying to claim ownership of it is just going to build an insane amount of resentment, and it's going to destroy whatever imprint he's trying to create with it.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And I think he's just being a fool for the way he's handling it. I think he got mad and he said some stuff that he probably should just kept to himself. If he wanted to do the imprint, he shouldn't have tried to trademark it. It's stupid. Just put the hashtag on there somewhere, like hashtag Comicsgate on the cover somewhere. People will know what that means.
Yep. And
people would have got into it just to see if it was any good. But trying to claim ownership was just a really terrible idea.
Yep. See, that's the thing is that, like, Ethan Van Sciver got some major pushback too when, people were claiming that he was the leader of Comicsgate because a lot of people take umbrage with that. They say there is no leader in Comicsgate. And I agree with that. There shouldn't be. I mean, the whole idea of it is it's kind of like Gamergate and the fact that it's a consumer revolt. They're saying, hey, you're doing this kind of shit to a hobby that we like. Stop it. And, if you don't stop it, we will stop buying. And that's the mentality I've always had with it. And
Yeah.
to try and co-opt that into a marketing ploy is a bad move.
But it's predictable. I mean, lots of phrasing has been co-opted over the years. Just do it. Nike didn't invent that. People were saying that for years before they ever branded it.
Yeah.
But somebody eventually was going to try and co-opt this. It was just a matter of time. And the important thing is to be nimble enough to work around that and still try and have your consumer revolt without getting bogged down by some corporatist trying to steal your movement out from under you. And it's happened before. I mean, the same kind of thing was sort of happening with Gamergate, but lots of movements get co-opted. Look at feminism.
Yeah.
Like, so we spend the entire time talking about Vox Day. Not that I couldn't, but
well, we're all angry about it.
Well, yeah, you know, true.
Because fuck that guy. That's why.
Well, yeah, absolutely, fuck that guy. But my impression of it is, what happened, Vox? Were you reading all of the stuff on Twitter that comic book pros were saying about Gamergate, or were saying about comicsgate, and you believed them? So therefore you got, oh, they're a bunch of racist, sexist, misogynists. Sounds like my type of people. Like, I really think it's like you were reading the bad press and believed it. Thus, hey, I got to get in on this thing. You know,
I don't think it was that. I think it was just purely about money. He wants to push his alt hero stuff, and I don't think it's selling that well. And he says it's selling good on Kindle, but I know what you're getting paid off Kindle. I've got books on Kindle too. And you're not getting that much per digital read. So don't give me that shit. So I don't care if he's number one. It's not that much money. But he saw an opportunity to create a brand that already has an existing customer base. So he just went in and tried to jump on it and get some money on it. That's why I think it's a cash grab. It's just a marketing stunt to make a bunch of money as quick as possible and get the name of his company out there.
When he was talking about people were asking what can we look forward to, and we're going to have new heroes and so on, and they're in development, and people were asking like what, and he goes, well, a couple of months from now you'll start seeing that. So in other words, you got nothing. Got it.
Yep.
But the whole time he was kind of like meandering around directly answering that question when it was asked several times. You got to have some kind of idea, man. Like, you wouldn't start this with no clue, we would hope. But he actually did.
From what he said in it. Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. I just kept picturing that. It's like, so what would your superhero look like? And I kept picturing Mr. Clean, like the cleaning guy. Because think about it, he's dressed in all white. He's a big, muscular, Aryan-looking guy with a bald head. I picture that's what his superhero would look like, Mr. Clean. And you'd come in and kick some ass and be very white about the whole thing.
No, that might actually sell. It'll be something like the spooky ghost, and it'll be a Klansman running around. Be a cross between
spooky ghost.
Yeah, it'll be a cross between Ghost Rider and some random out of shape hillbilly. And yeah, it'll just be some derivative knockoff like everything else I've seen from him.
So there's you get the Brie Larson tweeting towards, she's playing Captain Marvel in the upcoming MCU film Captain Marvel. And she tweets out to Entertainment Weekly, hey, Entertainment Weekly, I'm bored. Want to break the internet tomorrow? ? And
all I had to say about that is I was expecting butt shots of Brie Larson. I was vastly disappointed.
Well, that was the whole idea, right? Like, it's like break the internet usually means when the phrase is most often used as of a couple of years ago, kind of a dead phrase, but whatever, of some bikini model or whatever. Some models never posed in a bikini, and all of a sudden, like, everyone's sharing this picture because, oh my God, look at this hot babe, you know, on a beach or whatever.
Well,
and it's like,
the first time I ever heard the phrase was Kim Kardashian doing the whole showing her ass out of the black dress thing.
Right.
And the thing about it is that didn't break the internet then either, because, you know, no one gave a shit. Half of the people were like, who's Kim Kardashian? I know.
To be fair, next week we're going to see an imprint come out from Vox Day called Break the Internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tying it all in.
all I gotta say about that is I don't give a shit about Brie Larson because I don't give a shit about Miss Marvel. I have never liked Miss Marvel. I think Miss Marvel is a shit character and should have stayed in a coma. Anyway,
well, reading Miss Marvel back in the day, it was like when they're like, "Oh, we're reintroducing Miss Marvel." Remember the not actually all that bad comic book cover I thought where she's pulling the glove on with this smiley smirk, and it's like, "Oh, hey, cool. I guess she's a blonde white woman now." Because to me, Captain Marvel had always been a black woman with an afro. Like that was Captain Marvel when I was reading back in the day.
Yeah, Monica Rambeau.
Right, Monica, and it was like that's. And I guess an iteration of that character, Maria Rambeau, is now a fellow pilot, longtime friend of Carol Danvers.
Carl Manvers.
Carl Manvers in the film. And I'm like, oh, okay, so that's an attempt to kind of keep her in the story, but like, all right, you know.
Well, she's still around as Photon. They just never use her. Because I guess we can't acknowledge black women before 1999 or so. She was an awesome character.
How do you know that SJWs are not actual fans of comics? They just love complaining about things, because they would have been all over that. Like that's well, this is whitewashing this character. But before Monica was Captain Marvel, there was another Captain Marvel previous to that. That character's gone through so many iterations.
There's been like 5 of them, because there was Marvel, there was Monica Rambeau, you got Carol Danvers, Rick Jones, and then there was another alien guy, I forget his name, that had the negabands, which I forgot his name though. But yeah, the Rick Jones one was really cool, I thought, because he had like that Starfield skin.
Yeah, he was all blue, and he looked like he was. Yeah, his outfit was sweet. Yeah,
that they did a whole mini series to build him up to be Captain Marvel. It was the Avengers Forever story, and that was a great story. No, they just ignore all that. That never happened.
So you get this, like I said, I don't, you know that they don't actually read comics, because they would have been like, oh, well, she used to be the superhero, now she's just like a friend sidekick, blah, blah. Yeah, it's because none of you know that, because you don't read comics, you fucks. You just complain about what's currently happening. And I have evidence towards that, because the Entertainment Weekly story came out, and there was no break the internet, anything. They were just production photographs of what's going on the filming set of her staying there and her outfit, which I think looks pretty cool. It's very superhero-y. The red, blue, and gold one. Yeah. And then well, what? Apparently you have a problem with her costume.
No, he's making motorcycle noises.
No. If anything, it should be a black unitard with a red sash and a gold lightning bolt, not this star bullshit.
Hold on, that was more the Warbird outfit. I know she wore it at the end of the Captain Marvel original, or the Miss Marvel original series, but it was technically her Warbird outfit, which was back when she was cool, and she's not cool anymore. So they got to make it obvious that she's stupid and transitioning into a dude.
Yeah.
So
shit, you think that's going to be that's going to be a plot point? Brie Larson is going to be transgender?
Well, hold on here. This relates what I was about to say. I don't think it's going to be transgender, but it's just, of the 10 photos that were released, they're all just kind of like stand around photos, and Brie Larson has the same facial expression, which is non-expression on her face in every one of these freezes, which makes me think they're just standard production photos. They weren't really intended. So it didn't break the internet. Everybody's like, what the hell? Really, this was paid advertisement to create hype around this Entertainment Weekly issue, which is sad, but whatever. I was reading through the tweets to see what everybody thought, and it's all about how gay she is. If you scroll through them, it's one person who's got like 10,000 followers and is only following 730, so they're far from a fake account or a follow back account with fake followers. She actually says there's no way Carol Danvers is a heterosexual with 4 of the pictures, and it's like, what? Why? Like,
yeah, how does that equate?
And a bunch of people asked her why. This is Bridget's Rose. At Bridget's Rose is her handle, Amy. It says, honestly, there's absolutely no heterosexual explanation for all of the gay vibes in these photos. Oof.
What? That's retarded.
I know. And I posted this in Discord earlier. There's no heterosexual explanation for all the gay vibes, and people just joked around that. Like, dude, gay vibes. Like, what does that mean? Explain
I-
that. Simply
you
standing
can
still.
You can
just 'cause-
you can feel the vibrations of the gayness deep in your core.
See, when I feel vibrations of like heterosexuality, it means I have a boner. Don't know what the hell this bitch is talking about. Just because you got turned on by some pictures of poorly staged, slightly annoyed-looking lady doesn't mean anything. Okay, sad.
Well, it means enough to her, apparently.
Man, these photos are. I'm looking at them right now. These are terrible. She does not look tough just because she's making a fist. It looks like she's trying not to fart. Have you guys seen the photos?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm looking at them right now. They're pretty. They're like the reason I say they just look like production photos. It's like stand there so we can get the lighting correct and cameras framed in properly, and that's it. Like they really don't look like somebody was doing photographs while they were filming, if you know what I mean. Or these aren't freeze frames off of the cut film that's being sent to the editing room or anything of the sort. They just look like production photos. And
if anything, they look like some photographer was on set. She pissed him off, and he's like, "All right, every time she's about to go take a leak, I'm going to take a photo."
Well, Durankin says that gay people vibrate. Is that true? Maybe that's what's going on.
I don't know.
I've never felt a gay person to see if they're vibrating. Maybe they.
I've never asked.
It's like the Flash. They vibrate at a different frequency.
Is that why San Francisco has so many earthquakes?
Vibrations come into phase, and then all of a sudden.
and would we have
it
to
all makes
classify?
sense now.
Would we have to classify that as gaybrations or something like that?
This is like the spreading of Mary Sue-isms, like the website marysue.com, where it's like everything needs to be understood through a race, gender, or orientation lens. That everything needs to be seen this way, and it's like, it's like this character is obviously gay because of these things and those things and those. What? Why? What? Stop it! It's 10 freeze frame pictures. You can't tell anything from that. What are you doing?
Oh, they're terrible too. These aren't even good photos. They look like somebody's vacation photos.
Well,
it's her being proud of her cosplay is what it is. Yeah, standing there in her Captain Marvel cosplay, going, "Hey man, don't I look awesome in this Captain Marvel cosplay?" And be like, "No,
I think that like, I get the impression from the interviews that I've seen that Brie Larson is like seeing this as her path to being Jennifer Lawrence, like her path to more films and more, like being Hollywood royalty, basically. And tough to blame her to get into a Marvel movie after the hype that was built up at the end of Infinity War, where Nick Fury has
spoil it for people that haven't seen it.
I don't care.
At this point, with all the memes floating around about I don't feel so good, so come on.
I've not seen it and I don't care. So yeah, go ahead.
Hammer is letting you know that it's Kos, not Kos play.
I'm pronouncing it like it is pronounced in Japan.
I am still very iffy on that assertion, but we're gonna let that go because
how do you pronounce food from Italy? Is it Ritaurin food? That's how they say it in Japan. I know Japanese people.
Ritaurin food.
So let's move on to this. I got a couple of great stories that actually relate to each other from CBR.com, and I haven't read these before. I was telling these guys about them before we went live here.
One last thing before we move off of this. The scrolls look just like the Dark Orcs in that Star Trek movie Nemesis.
The Dark Orcs? You mean the Remans?
Yeah, the Dark Orcs.
Hammer is in chat and he's cringing hard at what you're saying.
Okay, they have space elves. They're called Vulcans. The Dark Elves would be the Romulans, and corrupted elves are orcs. So they're the Dark Orcs.
I have no words. I have space elves.
I'm not wrong.
They are though.
Vulcans are space elves. How do you not see that?
That's a good point. I've always...
It's not a good point. What What are you talking about?
How is that not a good point? It's 100% accurate. If there's any midgets in space, they're space dwarves.
Yeah, or halflings, depends.
Yeah, or halflings, you know, same difference.
Ugh.
I don't know how you don't know that. It's just that's why it's a space fantasy. They got space elves up there.
It's not a space fantasy, it's science fiction, you son of a bitch.
Space fantasy.
You're hitting a nerve.
I know, that's why I'm doing it. It's funny. Space elves. Well, the Skrulls look just like the Remans from Nemesis.
I guess they do. When they were talking about, okay, the Skrulls are going to be in it, I thought, how are they going to do their chins? Like, you know, a Skrull chin with the like, it looks like
exactly how they did Thanos.
Yeah, but I mean, that would have to be CGI'd like they did Thanos. Are they really going to glue fleshly corduroy onto their chins, like, you know, to give them that Skrull look?
I've always thought that looks stupid.
The Skrull look?
Yeah, well, the corduroy chin.
Oh,
I always thought that looked stupid.
Well, they're very 70s race, so.
Yeah.
And corduroy was big in the 70s? Is that what
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Late 60s, early 70s, the first see Skrulls around the same time corduroy pants came out. Just saying.
So how do you explain the Kree? They're blue, and that's it. So what's that about?
Have you ever read the Ramayana?
No.
Okay, it's an Indian epic, and some of the Indian gods and demigods, when they take human form, they have blue skin.
Right, that I have seen in various iconography and such.
Yeah, that's why the Kree are blue, because Captain Marvel, when he came here, he came as like a savior type character, and it was heavily inspired by the Mahabharata.
Oh, that's interesting, actually. Okay. And yet the Skrulls were informed by bad 70s fashion.
Yeah, I didn't say they were
Skrulls. It seems like Skrulls got the bad end of the inspiration stick, you know?
Yeah, one person had an inspiration from reading a book. The other one had inspiration from smoking weed. And I think we could see which one was which.
Yeah, one seems informed by wonderful storytelling, and the other one seems informed by pants that wouldn't be quiet. Like
and you never saw Fing before, so.
Okay, so this article that relates to the other one from CBR, the headline is Leonardo DiCaprio is pitching a grim and gritty Captain Planet movie. Now,
grim and gritty Captain America or Captain Planet.
And of course, Captain Planet is the superhero of the environment and so forth, right?
Well, it's a cartoon from the 90s,
right? And
he's very much an environmental, you know, sort of save the environment, save the rainforest sort of superhero.
The word you're looking for is propaganda. Propaganda.
Yes.
Okay, so you know you're a 90s kid if you remember the theme tune to one of the decade's most environmentally focused cartoons. Because there were so many.
Yeah, because there's so many. Yeah. Well, no, there was Fern Gully, but Fern Gully was good.
There's Fern Gully, and they also make reference to another one here at the end of it. So I'll read on. Captain Planet and the Planeteers. But whether or not he was your hero, Leonardo DiCaprio wants Captain Planet to return and join him in the battle against pollution. According to the Hollywood Reporter, who CBR gets 90% of their stories from, Paramount and the Appian Way, DiCaprio's production company, are currently in talks to secure screen rights to the series. What's more, they're interested in adding writers Joan O'Matt and Glenn Powell, best known for his acting work on Fox's comedy horror series Scream Queens, to produce the script. The original animated series featured blah, blah, blah. No one cares. Chris Tucker doing a Cosmic Prince interpretation.
What? Chris Tucker would be...
Hold on. It says the original series... Hold on, I'm just skimming because I don't want to read the whole thing. The original animated series featured an international group of teens. They were very diverse.
Very diverse.
Yeah.
The only way they could have been more diverse is if one of them was in a wheelchair.
Yeah. Each or at home. Each or home... What? Each or home had a magic ring that controlled the 5 elements.
Each or home?
That's what it says.
It's supposed to be each of them, I think.
Them from home? That's a fucking hell of a typo. Is Ethan Van Sciver would say. This is
CBR. They don't
garbage tier, man. Shit. So yeah, the 5 elements: earth, wind, fire, water, and heart.
do you not remember Mati? Come on, man.
Oh, I do.
It's all about Mati.
So all 5 points of a pentagram.
Okay, here's now I get it. It's like, yes, it was all a bit Fifth Element, but without Chris Tucker doing his Cosmic Prince impersonation.
Oh, okay.
All right. Surprisingly, Paramount isn't the first studio to express an interest in this particular superpowered environmental activist. A Captain Planet revamp was in development with Sony before the rights lapsed. According to the Hollywood Reporter, what's attracting Paramount and Appian to the character was the subversive take Matt and Powell have on the source material, viewing Captain Planet as a washed-up has-been who needs the kids more than they need him, giving a bright, colorful, idealistic hero a grim and gritty makeover.
Played by Steve Buscemi. Hello, fellow kids.
And then another article from CBR.com, and this is going to lead through to my ultimate take on both these articles. They're paid for advertisements. This is just, we paid for money from the Hollywood Reporter, go to CBR to more media assets there and say, we want you to republish this story. Not once, but twice, because here's the second one. Captain Planet and the Planeteer writer, Glenn Powell, promises the reboot will take a subversive approach to the infamous 1990s character. Speaking to the Hollywood Reporter, like, wait a minute, this is the same article. Powell discusses the process of writing the film, where his mindset is and how he will be approaching the concept. He explained that Captain Planet had been a favorite of his from childhood, but Powell explained that he wants to play the concept less straight-faced. Quote, I mean, they've tried to make it a superhero movie before, but they kind of did an earnest take, and ours is way more subversive and fun and like dark and irreverent, he explained. Sometimes you have to think of these things logically. If you have a blue superhero with a green mullet, you can't do like an earnest take on that. You have to go at it from a fun direction.
All the likes that he said.
Yeah, they really did, yes.
I would like to point out that the words irreverent and fun rarely go together.
Yeah.
And in the environmentalist-minded Captain Planet was a colorful product of its time. The cartoon centered around 5 children, Earth, Wind, Water, Fire, blah, blah, blah. Studios have been trying to make a reboot of this project for years. The major environmentalist, Leonardo DiCaprio, is even being attached to the current version through his production company, Appian Way. This is the same fucking article a week apart from the last one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See what I mean? These are just paid for articles. That's my only point.
The same thing with their articles on Alterna.
Well, with all of this sort of stuff, it reminds me a lot of articles you'll see that are attached to the Associated Press. People just rehash stuff that's in the Associated Press and put it in their own words to avoid plagiarism. But right. it's just plagiarized.
Yeah. This is just. I mean, that is the definition in my mind of garbage tier. It's not just bad editing. It's not just unpaid writers. It's where their stories are coming from. The fact that they don't go interview people really, and the people that they do interview are people that have an axe to grind or through their PR agent set up the interview, like Mark Waid through 4 different garbage tier websites, including CBR. I have an idea for a Superman movie. And then the next one, Mark Waid has an idea for a Superman movie, but he's not telling. And it's like, this is set up by Wade's PR team to hopefully get him on as a writer for the next Superman film. This is transparent as fuck. I mean, you guys are, do you ever do anything like as honest journalists of a given genre? Like,
why would they do that?
I was going to say, are you kidding?
Well, way to make me feel naive. I don't know. I thought maybe for the novelty.
You may be naive, but we're just cynical.
Yeah. I suffer from cynical asshole syndrome. I don't know about you guys, but fuck these people. I've always resented that Captain Planet was, first of all, really stupid, and second of all, a ripoff of Cyforce.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't remember Cyforce from the New Universe line, it came out. Yeah, it came out a year before Captain Planet did, or 2 years maybe. So when the New Universe line was launched in the 88, I think it was, or 86, Cyforce was one of the premier titles, and it was about these kids that could get together and summon the Cyhawk, which was this American Indian superhero spirit. and it would go and fight battles. And it was very, very similar to Captain Planet with less of an environmental focus.
I remember seeing the ads for New Universe when I was buying back issues back in the day. And it made me like, well, let me look through the long boxes of back issues because because it seemed like it was being pushed in anything and everything. And I'm trying to remember all the Star Brand was one of them.
Yep. Justice, DP7.
Oh, DP7, right. DP7.
Displaced Paranormal 7.
Yeah.
And
Kickers Incorporated.
Yeah, Kickers, Spitfire and the Troubleshooters. And
yeah, this was definitely before my time, but I remember
Night
seeing
Mask.
that they were in comics advertising at the same time, like Hostess fruit pies were,
Yeah. I think the only thing that's still kicking around in Marvel canon is the Star Brand, because it was mentioned in Avengers a month or two ago.
Oh, Mark Hazard, Mercenary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck. My brain feels like I haven't dusted those neurons off that were holding those memories for a while. Shit.
See, I'm full of useless references. When was the last time you heard someone reference New Universe, let alone the Cyhawk?
I haven't thought about New Universe in like, oh God, since I opened up an old back issue that had New Universe ads in it.
Oh, I loved the New Universe, man. That was my jam, because we had all the titles at the newsstand at the drugstore I used to buy comics at. They got all of them in, and I was like, oh, these are actually pretty fun, because they were more ground level superheroes. They weren't like spandex crowd. They were just normal people with like minor psychic powers, stuff like that.
They weren't part of the spandex crowd.
No, they were their own universe, and they're still existing out there somewhere.
You mean that whole like series, that whole universe, like it didn't take place in the standard 616 Marvel universe?
Nope, it was its own universe. They've crossed over to it before. The Exiles in the 90s did a crossover. I want to say it was in the 70s issues. But they crossed over there with the original Blank and Longshot and some of the others, and they were just getting pwned by some of the New Universe guys. It's pretty fun. It was a good like 3-story arc. But yeah, those characters are still kind of kicking around in their own universe. They tried relaunching it like a decade ago, but Warren Ellis made it a little too outlandish, and it didn't work.
So what
and that's
we
your
have,
history lesson.
Well, thank you. I'm just looking to see, because I know Blue Mamba ends today. Jim Helis's Indiegogo project, Blue Mamba. But I'm seeing if it's ended yet. That's what I'm looking for here. Like, I don't know if it ends at like midnight Eastern or not. In any case, I am going to post it in chat for those who are interested. If you haven't gone and taken a look at it, you should. There it is.
Friend of us and the Minions of the Zoo.
Yeah, and Jim was on last week, and we talked about a lot of different things, and he pitched this comic to us, and that was really interesting. So that was our last episode, if you want to go back and look at that. He's doing pretty good. He didn't reach his overall goal, but came goddamn close, which is awesome. And 579 backers. That's sweet. Good job. Good job.
I would call that a success. 16 grand.
Yeah. And hopefully he'll get a few more in as it closes in to the close, assuming it's not already closed. Again, I can't tell. But sexy as fuck character. Interesting developed characters in it, so you can't go wrong.
I sincerely hope when issue 2 comes around is when we'll really have to try and do as much marketing as we possibly can, because I really want to see how the story develops. When we were discussing, the interesting story arcs between Clarissa and Echo, I really wanted to find out, how Echo is going to take finding out that Clarissa is, this assassin. That I think is the more interesting bit of the story to me. But
yeah, and he hinted at it. Jim hinted at it that it was not she wasn't trying to find out, but ended up finding out like through sort of no fault of her own. And it's like, ooh, that sounds dramatic and interesting. So
as long as he works in the phrase Clarissa explains it all.
I wonder if Nickelodeon will allow that, number one. And number two, I really hope his artist takes inspiration from Melissa Joan Hart.
Why?
Back when she was young and hot and not I had 4 kids and a drinking problem look.
Yeah. I was say I gotta admit, man, back in the day I had kind of the biggest crush on Melissa Joan Hart, not gonna lie.
Right.
No, Hillary Duff was my girl.
Nah, it was all about
Hillary Duff stayed hot after 2 kids.
Yeah.
Man. It was
she still
together.
looks good.
Yeah.
And now it's not perfect when I look at her.
Well, yeah, and witness Miley Cyrus if you want to see just how hard and fast a formerly cute teenager can fall, you know.
Well, you know what's weird is Miley Cyrus's sister is smoking hot, the older one. And then you look at Miley and you're like,
to my knowledge.
Yeah, she's yum.
Really? Okay.
Redhead, and you stay away from her. But Miley's like, she needs to like kind of dial it back a little bit and stop partying so much. You know, just relax a little. Life will be good, and you won't look like you've ran a train on 30 dudes.
Oh my God.
Well, how do you know she hasn't?
In any case, the show definitely needs to run its hour-long time limit tonight because I am off to go see Scarface, Brian De Palma's classic, starring Al Pacino in the theater tonight, and I can't be late because how often do you get a chance to see Scarface in the theater? So I got to get going sooner than later here.
Cool.
So we're going to do our comic book pitches and get through them as fast as we possibly can. Who wants to go first?
Inquisitor does.
Inquisitor does? Okay, Inquisitor's first.
All right, I've been volunteered. All right, my recommendation this week is written by Mark Andrienko, pencils by E.J. Sue, colors by Tom B. Long, cover by Robert Bernesci, cover colors by Dan Brown, and editor Chris Aprisco. My pitch is Castlevania: The Belmont Legacy.
Okay.
I've always been a really big fan of Castlevania. It's actually a really, really interesting and cool story to me. It's kind of a retelling of the legend of Vlad the Impaler, Dracula. But it's very Japanese in its interpretation of vampires.
Mm-hmm.
This story in particular centers around Christopher Belmont and his new wife, Ilya Belmont, and the return of Dracula. And he realizes that the Belmont clan is, the biggest thorn in his side. And he wants to try and kill them before they can come to fruition. And he does so by taking Christopher's bride and makes Christopher come to him, trying to end the Belmont bloodline. It's a very, very interesting issue, series. It's only 6 issues, and I would highly recommend it. It's I won't go into too much detail because that would be giving stuff away. But if you've enjoyed any of the story of any of the previous Castlevania games, this would be right up your alley.
That's not a bad suggestion. That's a little bit outside the norm. And you said it was IDW?
IDW, yep.
They've got so many great properties.
Yep, they do.
under their banner, and they still keep going deeper and deeper in debt every day. It's the weirdest thing.
They just can't get people to buy them. Like if
too woke.
Right.
This one was from 2005, so I doubt that very many people involved in this one were very woke to go broke. But at the same time, I haven't seen their names since, which is unfortunate. I do love this book. I thought it was great.
Nice.
All right, who's next?
You're Molly, next. What do you got?
No. You've gone last every time, which means you're not.
I like going last.
All the more reason you won't be going last this time.
Fine. All right. I'm pitching Cyko Co. Or KO. I think it's Co. Anyway, it's an Alterna book.
Alterna.
And yeah, I really like Alterna. For $1.50, man, you really can't go wrong. This book is like a kids-friendly version of Deadpool. It's over the top, silly. He breaks the fourth wall. He has ridiculous enemies. This issue has him going to a town called Surf City for a surfing competition that he holds a record in. He's obsessed with pinball, and he likes the chocolate shakes at this one restaurant. But the whole thing's just silly. It makes almost no sense. The plot is ridiculous. There's a dolphin man in it who runs the diner, and he has a girlfriend named Peachy Keen. So his enemies in this one are the two guys on the right. The little one is called Lil Kahuna.
It's just the big one is called Big Kahuna.
No, he's Kudo something. But there's a tiki in there, and the whole thing is just completely insane. It's like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon come to life, but with a Deadpool theme.
I was going to say, it looks a lot like something you'd see in early Adult Swim.
Yes, exactly.
And that's not a bad thing. I like the early Adult Swim.
Yeah, if you like that's... Oh, go ahead.
I was just about to ask, are like, you said it's just ridiculous. So are there some good laugh out loud moments throughout it when you're reading it?
Not for an adult, but
okay.
I think for a kid, if you were 7 or 8, you'd find it hilarious because there's a lot of like really just cheesy kid jokes in there.
So you're just laughing yourself stupid is what you're saying.
Maybe. I will neither confirm nor deny that. But it was a lot of fun, and for the $1.50 cover price, you really can't go wrong. It's a safe kids book. It's not the adult. I mean, there's some jokes for adults. There's a Fonzie joke in there, but you really could just give this book to a kid and they would be able to enjoy it without any context of a greater universe or anything. It's a nice self-contained kids book.
Right. Okay. So you guys got some off the wall interesting suggestions. I've got something that's well, it's kind of predictable coming from me, but
a bit more conventional. Let me guess. See if I'm psychic. Silver Surfer.
No.
Fantastic Four.
I've already pitched Silver Surfer #1, Volume 3.
Well, okay.
There's other volumes.
There are, well, motherfucker. No, you are absolutely wrong. You son of a bitch.
He's changing it right now.
Yeah, right. Quick, I gotta find something. I'm not pitching Silver Surfer. I'm pitching Silver Sable.
Oh wow, I haven't seen that in ages.
I'm a big fan of the character Silver Sable. She's a female mercenary, is the short version of it. Oh, Blind Press is here. Hey, Blind. She's a mercenary that is basically the entire economic basis of her small Eastern European country. I've never quite known how to pronounce it, but inside my head, I always pronounced it as Samirica, but it's probably not even close to that, the way you're supposed to actually say it.
Fake Eastern block. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Simcuria. I've always said Samirica. And if you want to know where it's located, it's immediately to the south of Latveria, which is Dr. Doom's fictional Eastern European country.
Which exists right next to Made-Up-A-Stan.
Right. That's exactly it. And I just love that when they start making up fictional countries, they sandwich them all together and somehow it makes it make more sense, you know? And so she's always having diplomatic relations with Victor Von Doom because of that, because they share a border. But her Silver Sable International mercenary company, for want of a better word, because they are professional mercenaries, brings in so many hundreds of millions of dollars that she's actually the sole economic basis of her whole country. That's the idea. She is an on-again, off-again appearance in various comics. Jack, you know that, right? She's like all over the place, especially Spider-Man, which is why, you see this one guest starring the Amazing Spider-Man, because of course it only makes sense. But you get a lot more detail of her and her background, and her name literally is first name Silver, last name Sable. And she dresses in all silver, which is great camouflage, but shut up, it's comics. Who cares?
Well, they needed to work in a foil embossed cover somehow, and that was the way to do it.
You mean this one?
Yep.
I
I knew you were going to do that.
say I'm gonna take a stab here. I think it's pronounced Simcaria.
Simcaria. Okay.
Simcardia. Okay.
Yeah, Simcardia. Yeah. She hails from the state of Simcaria, adjacent to Latveria. So
Semirica. So, yeah. I was just making that up as a kid and rolled with it, man. That's not even close to the way it's spelled. But anyway,
whatever. It doesn't matter as long as you enjoy it.
This was from back in the day when chromium covers of this sort were a huge rage. So you see that, like, even up in the top box, it's all silver. But of course, when you try and scan it for a digital edition, it looks like this.
Yeah, it looks like shit, just like the lenticulars and
yeah. But it is a very cool effect because it's not only chromium layered but embossed as well. So silver really stands the hell off on the cover, and it fucking looked great.
Yeah, it pissed me off as a kid because it cost $2, and that was almost double what a regular issue was.
yeah.
I was happy to buy it because I really dug the character of Silver Surfer from Spider-Man, and as it says at the top, in her own book, at last. And I was like, fuck yeah, I don't care what it costs, I'm buying this. And Mustafa, Jesus, Mustafa. Whoa, Sable just got blacked. That's not funny.
I don't know. I think it's pretty good.
I'd watch that movie.
The art in it's fantastic because it's just very 90s before everything went very Liefeldian, if that makes sense.
This is right on the border of where they started their real deep dive into the cash grabs.
Yes.
Whenever the foil embossings and the chromium covers and all that, oh man, that was a dark time to be a kid with money.
Yeah. And why I would recommend this story is that it really does. It's written excellently by Gregory Wright, and he's got a comicography as long as your fucking arm. You can look him up, and Stephen Butler does a great job and actually sticks with the series beyond the first issue, which sometimes can be the thing. They get a good artist for the first issue and then kind of grab freelance people from there on. But no, Stephen Butler sticks with it for a while. The series ran a good length. So back in the day, it was a short run of 3 years. By modern standards, that would be an extremely successful long-running series. Because I know it's sad, but it's true. Like 3 issues would be a short run for a series now. 3 years was back in the day was a short run. Absolutely worth it. And it ran up to number 35, and then before it was canceled. And then only a year and a half ago, issue 36 came out as kind of like a testing the waters to see what people would think of another Silver Sable. And that was a really odd choice for Marvel. And I don't understand why they did that, because they're obsessed with number ones because they sell better. Why continue the same numerical continuity by issuing it as number 36?
It's hard to say with them. They did that with Darkhawk and a couple others too, like trying to do revivals, but none of them had good writers on them. So I don't understand why they just didn't call it one-shots. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, so it's like you get this Semirica, small Balkan state, so you can start off not knowing anything about Silver Sable with this issue, and it's available on getcomics.com. It's also available on other perfectly legal download sites. And it's
getcomics.info.
.info, excuse me. So absolutely worth checking out because the storyline is just great. Like you have this conceit of the issue that this kind of narrative bubble is Silver thinking inside of her head. These are her own thoughts. So instead of having endless thought bubbles coming out of her, because it's always from her perspective, all of this is what she's thinking while things are going on in the forest, more amateurs out in the open, disregarding the use of camouflage because she's this tactical woman who's like unstoppable. This is just her practicing with new people that she's thinking about bringing into her personal pack of mercenaries called the Wild Pack, hence the name Silver Surfer and the Wild Pack. The story goes great, and she ends up capturing the flag, and there's an awesome semi-full page splash. She's also auditioning Sandman to be part of the Wild Pack, and he comes on, which is another Spider-Man villain. Nice crossover. The story ends up going in the direction of her niece is kidnapped, and she goes to New York to save her from the terrorists who have taken over her whole school where her niece is boarding at. That's the entire first issue, just to get a sense of Silver Sable, what she's like, her interaction with Spider-Man, and how she's a globe-trotting mercenary and all that. And the series goes in some great directions. It kind of falls off towards the end, but issue 1 is absolutely worth reading. I totally recommend it. So that's my pitch.
I love the feathered hair. You couldn't get more 80s if you tried.
That on her?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's lots of people who attempt cosplay with Silver Sable. Because there's lots. Yeah. Yes, there's lots of foil, silvery latex gear out there, and lots of different cosplayers have tried doing it, but they never get her hair quite right. They end up looking like old ladies with a young woman's face. It's interesting to look up.
Women don't look like that in comics anymore. Like, she's got like B cups at least, so it's kind of weird to see women with boobs on covers.
Yeah, and she's got those classic, like, these Marvel boots, the foldovers, like Captain America,
the Buccaneer boots.
Yeah, and like everyone and their dog wears, not just Captain America. That was like the standard boot that everyone put on, right?
I miss the extremely high up on the hip cut onesie too.
Yeah.
That's
like the what's her name? Psylocke. Yeah.
Psylocke is the go-to for everyone.
You know, they de-Asianed her.
What?
Yeah. They turned her back.
We talked about this. Remember I said she was back to being Betsy Braddock? Well, she always
was Betsy Braddock,
but back to Betsy Braddock and her.
Now she's Betsy with bad teeth again, British.
Oh,
Betsy with bad teeth. Ouch.
Betsy bad teeth.
Well, what do you call British people? I don't know.
Limeys?
I thought those were Irish people.
No, that's British.
Oh, I don't know. I don't pay attention to slurs that much.
In any case, so yeah, that's my pitch of the week. So rounding it up, does anybody have any final thoughts, something else they'd want to talk about before we say goodbye and sign off?
Go and see your movie, Polly.
Well, I'm telling you, it starts in a short while. So
if you haven't bought some Alterna books, give them a shot. They've been catching a lot of heat lately over nonsense. Support your local comic shop.
Yeah, I completely agree. Alterna through comicsgate fuckery is just, we'll talk about that next week, because I want to see more of what happens with people turning on Alterna before I want to see the story develop, because there's lots of other comicsgate shows you can watch to see what's going on. But like a small, independent, minority owned comic press is catching all this hell from all these comic pros because supposedly they're lining up with a bunch of racists because they said don't use blockchains and block tens of thousands of people on Twitter at the same time. And somehow that makes them evil. It's ridiculous what's going on with Alterna. I mean, fuck that. Alterna's awesome. They got cheap comic books and they give a lot of people their first shot, and they don't deserve this hell.
Yep.
Yeah, no, not only that is that the head of Alterna Comics left his DMs open. Send him some encouraging words. Say, I've never checked out comics before, but how you're being treated is awful, and it's making me want to support you more and more, given how bad people seem to want to treat you. So
I put the link to their Etsy store in the chat.
Oh, nice.
It's great. I bought comics off their Etsy store before. It's like $1 shipping, and I spent like $7. Got 4 comics. They threw in a sticker and like some other promotional stuff with like a list of all the stores in the country that they sell to. So very, very good, very customer oriented company, and I highly recommend supporting them. And maybe they'll expand and get more product out.
Yeah.
They do make novels about comic books. That's a good point. I am myself going to go look into that to see if the episodic, like the issue by issue floppies, come in accessibility for the blind. I would imagine in one way or another there would be. Also, blind, I can definitely recommend, like, oh wow, Audible is an awesome source for comic book novels with the characters that are more like radio plays than anything, with the sounds, and they get different voice actors and stuff. And I have a bunch of them if you want to hear samples. Yeah, there's great ways to enjoy comic books by audio alone. Definitely.
Yeah, Audible is great for that. The one thing that I don't think Audible does is they do radio play like novels, but I'm not sure how often they do that. Usually it's just a narration audiobook, but I do know that audio plays are coming back in a big way. Like Warhammer 40K has a ton of them.
Well, and a lot of that stuff's in public domain. Like the old ones from like the Shadow and Lone Ranger, they all had hundreds of episodes that are available on like Internet Archive.
Yeah, I've got a complete. If you want to listen to the Shadow radio plays, like the ones from like 1938 and up, Blind, or anyone else who's interested, because not just for those who are visually impaired, but just as on their own, the Shadow radio plays are fucking epic. They're so fun to listen to.
Yeah, I listen to them when I'm driving.
Do you? I listen to it when I'm trying to fall asleep. They're only the Shadow knows. And especially the World War II ones, you get, remember to save your aluminum for the war cause and buy only blue coal. Like it's just, it's so old timey. It's just charming as fuck.
Yeah, Orson Welles did some voice acting on the Shadow, and like the intro clip I've got at the beginning of my videos now is from Captain Midnight, and it's all public domain stuff now. The copyrights expired years ago. And you got Flash Gordon, Lone Ranger. There's some sci-fi shows out there. There's all kinds of stuff, suspense, things like that.
Actually, you know what? We brought up a whole bunch of things we're trying to end the show, but like next time that we do one, or if we do a secret one this weekend, we should like set aside 15 minutes, 20 minutes to talk about all the audio only stuff there is in the comic book world. Because fuck, there's a lot of it. Let's pitch stuff.
Yeah. That's
like Warhammer 40K and then so on. That's not a bad idea. Blind gave us a great idea. Cool.
To expand on what I usually talk about, here's a website. I'll put it in the chat. Polly, if you want to put it in the description too. There's a website called upcomingcons.com that updates regularly, and we'll have comic conventions, gaming conventions, all sorts of stuff all throughout the year, going on all throughout the United States. One could be close to your town. I highly recommend always looking through there. See if there's a convention coming to a town near you. Like here in Illinois, there's the one, or there's upcoming, there's the pop culture convention in Chicago. There's Dragonfall in Elmhurst. There's, all of these sorts of things. There's so many that not a lot of people would even know about if it weren't for either word of mouth or things like a website. So with this sort of thing, again, I beat the drum all the time. Look for comic conventions near you. Go to comic conventions and pick up books that way. They're super cheap. They're easily accessible. You can find a whole bunch of back issues and recommendations of good old stuff that'll pique your interest. Tons of stuff about there. And now with this, there's a tool to help you find something that's close to you.
Nice. All right. So I think that qualifies as your final thought, because you even brought in comic book conventions. And Jack, final thoughts? Alterna Comics and stuff. Was that your final thought?
That was my final thoughts.
Okay. And my final thought, as always, is remember your back issues. Go to your local comic book shops. Buy collected editions. Buy back issues. If you don't want to support the big two currently because they're not doing what you like, that's great. There's fantastic stories from the 70s, 80s, and 90s still to enjoy, and you support your local comic book shop by buying used editions. And buy Alterna. Check them out. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. Jack, Inquisitor, always great to have you. And we'll see everybody next time. Thanks for coming by.
Take care, everyone.